postseason?
As long as they beat Denver, not much. It's high, well, not much as far as negative. If they beat Denver, which we all expect to happen, this becomes a high reward, low risk postseason for Josh Allen. Because if they lose, let's say they beat Denver, lose to Baltimore, or even if they lose to Kansas City.
Well, let's stay with Baltimore.
Okay,
Kansas City,
say
I
they
think
lose
is
to
different because
Baltimore.
that would be round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's blaming Josh Allen?
It's true.
I'm saying Baltimore's got 9 Pro Bowlers. Buffalo has 2, one of them being Josh Allen. I'm looking at Sean McDermott for being unable to get over the hump with all these 13 and 12 win seasons. I'm looking at probably the defense. I'm looking at injuries. I'm looking at the front office for not getting my Superman quarterback any top level weapons. That's who's getting the blame. And if he wins, oh my gosh, if he wins the Super Bowl, then we've talked about this in the past. If he wins the Super Bowl, he will be viewed by many on TV and talked about like the best player in the NFL. He will, because it will, and I will have to admit, still think Mahomes, in my view, will be the best. But if he
You win league MVP, beat Lamar, beat Mahomes twice in the same year, and then win the Super Bowl, you have a good argument.
Yes.
You have a good argument.
I think it'd be.
Yeah.
But, and the thing is this, you will have a hard time. I'm sure it's happened. I was thinking off the top of my head. A quarterback, like a team that felt so much like a one-man team with that quarterback winning a Super Bowl. Like Mahomes has always had Kelsey. Brady, it was, the defense was a big part in his first Super Bowls. Then he got Gronk. There's always, Montana had Rice. And, so this would be unusual. Like to see what we view as, the Pro Bowl selections.
But I don't put as much stock into the
But I'm
Pro
just
Bowl.
saying, I get it that it's not the end-all, be-all, but it does say something. Because who else on that team is a star?
Well, listen, I think
Deion Dawkins,
yeah,
but he
right.
was the other
I
Pro Bowl.
think that this is where the analysis of how good a team is a little too shiny toy correlated. Because the Bills don't have star weapons. But they do have, I think, of every team in the AFC playoffs, save maybe Denver and maybe including Denver, the best offensive line. James Cook has been excellent this year and probably could have had 25 touchdowns. What did he finish with? 16 touchdowns with Josh Allen, or maybe 17, whatever it was. And I do think their defensive line, I think both of their lines, we talk all the time, football's won in the trenches. I think the Bills' offensive and defensive line combo is the best in the AFC by a decent margin compared, like the Eagles have a good argument for the whole league. But, so I think it has been a little overrated how out on his own Josh Allen is, but he is out on his own when it comes to guys who's catching the football, and you know what I mean, the stars out on the edge, so I get that. But to answer your question, I agree with you that it becomes a house money playoffs if he reaches the AFC Championship game. I do not agree with you that obviously they have to win this week. But, Brew, they will be favored the next round. It will be at home. They are the higher seed. And
I think that's a good question. Will they be favored?
I mean, the look-ahead line says yes, not by a full 3, but it says they are. And that would be, again, if we're working in the world of if they were to lose in the next round, 3 straight divisional round home playoff losses. That's not supposed to happen.
Well, but okay, go ahead.
That's just what it would be. And then there is he just does need some more deep playoff runs. People, I think, too often look at it as binary of have you won a Super Bowl, have you not? Have you been to a Super Bowl, have you not? There's another degree of like, are you constantly in the mix for it? And when we look at I use the same list of quarterbacks. Basically, I think the best quarterbacks going right now, and then the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks, of this century. And that's their conference championship game appearance.
Okay. Oh my God, this has been a crazy week with First Things First, man. I mean, it's so funny that Nick Wright is trying to be like, I think it's overblown what Josh Allen is doing with this team in terms of the help that they have. And yet everyone, except he wanted to act like that Patrick Mahomes carried the Kansas City Chiefs last year when his numbers were down. The defense was elite and special. Still Travis Kelce, Pacheco, Rice, Andy Reid, Spags. I mean, like, it's just such nonsense. And now this team, right? Like Nick Wright earlier was fighting that the Chiefs need to have more Pro Bowlers, that they should have more Pro Bowlers, that it's disrespectful that Patrick Mahomes wasn't in the Pro Bowl, and that there's not other players on the Chiefs as a whole that were in the Pro Bowls. Now he's like, Pro Bowlers don't really matter. I think using Pro Bowlers as an indicator of how good or not good a team is. Oh, okay, interesting. It's more about the shiny toy. Okay, sure. That's such a convenient take to have when you want to pull down Josh Allen or create a situation when you want to be like Josh Allen hasn't been good enough. But when you want to elevate Patrick Mahomes, it's all full rounds. Again, people will constantly be like, why do you bring up Patrick Mahomes? They're not even talking about Patrick Mahomes. Yes, they are. When you're talking about how great another quarterback is, like Josh Allen, and you have a take like Nick just gave, yes, your hands are tied to not bring in Patrick Mahomes because you have to be consistent with how these conversations are being had. Josh Allen is elevating this team. Could you imagine if Josh Allen had the defense that Patrick Mahomes had last year? How much better the Buffalo Bills would be right now? Like, do we understand that? Can we grasp that? It's night and day. Night and day. I mean, it's crazy at this point. I 100% agree with what Brew is saying. The Ravens do have a better roster. They do. They absolutely do. They played inconsistent, and it took a while for their defense to get going, and they made their fair share of mistakes. But again, you can even just look at the Pro Bowlers. You can just look at some of the numbers. And I agree, you can't just go by all Pro Bowlers. You can't just say this team has 8 Pro Bowlers, this team has 2 Pro Bowlers, therefore the team with the 8 Pro Bowlers is better than the team with the 2 Pro Bowlers. I understand it's not like that either. I agree with that. So there's some truth to that. But when you try to just draw this line and be like, well, look at this team and look at that team, and when it fits my narrative, I say this, and when it doesn't fit my narrative, I say that, like, that's the problem. That's the frustration. And again, you have to look at coaching as well. If you don't have a great roster with a ton of great Pro Bowlers, do you have the coach that knows how to maximize them, to elevate them? I would argue that the Bills don't always have that. Whereas the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid and Spags do. I would make the argument that I don't know, the Ravens are kind of like, depends on the year, honestly, in terms of maximizing the talent that that exists. But yeah, if Josh Allen loses against the Broncos, it would be a bad loss for the Bills. And I feel like Sean McDermott, it's like, you fire him. You fire him and you get Ben Johnson. Call it a day. Losing to the Ravens, the only reason why the Bills would be favored and why you would think that the Bills have a better chance to win that game is 1,000% because of Josh Allen. 1,000% because of Josh Allen. There's no question about it. No denying it. The reason why you would think that the Kansas City Chiefs would beat the Ravens is not 1,000% because of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes would contribute to it, but you would be like Andy Reid, you would say Spags, you would say Pacheco, you would say Kelce, like you would say a list of these other things. Well, Spags' defense is really good at slowing Lamar down. You would give these other variables. And you wouldn't be able to say that for why would Lamar Jackson beat the Kansas City Chiefs? You would say it's 100% because of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You wouldn't be like, well, because that defense is really good and they can slow down Mahomes. They'll be able to slow down the run game. They'll be able to get to Mahomes, that defensive line. Not what you'll be able to say. That's why always collectively, how these teams approach and get after them, the Chiefs collectively have been a better team, better coached. That's why it's always funny that when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, who has to obviously do more with less, he has to work harder to elevate his team. That then if the team comes up short, it's like you want to give him all the blame. It's like the dude is doing everything he can. And you want to blame the lack of conference championship game appearances. You look at a graphic like this and you want to try to act like it's on Josh Allen. And it's fundamentally not. That's madness. That really is truly true insanity. And it is. It really, really is. That it's somehow on Josh Allen. Josh Allen cost them the game last year? I've already gone through that. I've already done that so many different times. You have to be the leading rusher. He, threw for more completions than Patrick Mahomes had pass attempts. He would have had an additional 100 yards if his wide receivers could just catch the ball. 3 insane drops, missed field goals. That's Josh Allen? Okay. Whatever you say. Obviously, the infamous 13-second game, that's Josh Allen's fault? Sure. Josh Allen having to play with the revolving door of offensive coordinators? Yeah, everyone always wants to talk about that Bengals game in the snowstorm, where Josh Allen had to do everything himself, had nowhere to go with the ball, no game plan, was being attacked nonstop, was pressured 22 times. People want to say it was okay. Everyone excuses Patrick Mahomes' epic failure in the Super Bowl for putting up, 3 points? No touchdowns? Interceptions? A disaster in the Super Bowl against the Bucs? And they say, well, he had no O-line. What do you want him to do? But with Josh Allen in a blizzard, that's an excuse. He should have found a way. Okay, sure. That almost makes sense, right? That almost makes sense. And having an offensive coordinator who's now been fired multiple times, who can't keep a job in the NFL, who got fired by the Browns. That almost makes sense. That almost makes sense. Wait a second. No, it doesn't. But that's par for the course. We can't have honest discussions when talking about Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. We are incapable of having honest discussions about this. We like to just create very specific, narrow scenarios that don't actually exist to prove points that shouldn't be made, that are incorrect. Oh, funny stuff. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? What do you think is on line for Josh this postseason? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.